All right, investors in the city of Tempe, how would you like to help a business out that will make revenue year one, be profitable year two, and create 25 professional and IT jobs? Okay, well, how are we going to do that? It starts with the social web. I think we all know about Facebook, even though I think that's going to go away eventually, YouTube, Twitter, etc. But there's hundreds of social properties out there. In fact, there's 1.2 billion people across the globe that interact with the social web. Whether you want to call it updates, posts, subscriptions, pins, whatnot, what it really boils down to for me and for Brand Mixer is it's all data. Big, powerful social data. Okay, so we're not talking about social media marketing. We're not talking about just social engagement, working with the people that are the so-called influencers that have 2,000 friends. We're not just talking about a brand's social pages or social properties. We're talking about the entire social web, and within that social web lies critical information that can help brands make decisions. So, Brand Mixer gathers, analyzes, and sells data, social consumer data. How do we do it? We have a platform called Social Coherence. We have third-party data streams along with some of our own proprietary technology that combs the social web and percolates that data into our database. And then we throw some fancy algorithms on it and outspit some really nice analysis and insights that brands can use. This isn't just, oh, wow, my likes went up 40%. No, we're talking more advanced analytics. So why get into this? Social data. Right now, a lot of it is still on social media marketing. It's an emerging discipline. As we know, big data is huge growth. Social is huge growth. And right now, there's no standards out there yet from a KPI standpoint. The target industry would be the consumer packaged goods industry. It's a $175 billion industry. They have very deep pockets. I know this because I was in CPG sales and marketing with Sara Lee and General Mills for 12 plus years. I have more LinkedIn connections than I do Facebook friends by a factor of 10. And 125 of those are in CPG. I know CMOs, I know directors of marketing. It's a highly competitive industry that does a lot of a lot of analysis. Our first in line solution are 9 social data KPIs. I'm not going to go into detail here, but they are pulled from some standard measurements already out there, the so-called influence, sentiment, and things like that. But even that, the standards aren't exact. We're establishing 9 of them. Our enhanced solution, which means investors, where the most money comes from, is what we call applied social analytics. It takes the social data, the syndicated data, and the shipment data of a brand, i.e. Nestle, General Mills, Cheerios, and it does advanced analytics. From a revenue standpoint, I'll make profit this year. I'll make $400,000 or $500,000 on my own. I'll make this $1 million business, $1.5 million. With funding, I can make it an $8, $9, $10 million business. I need people and operations, and with $1.25 million, I can make this an $8 to $10 million business and bring 25 desperately needed white-collar jobs to the city of Tempe. Thank you.
So I've just from the industry I come from, I've seen a lot of social tools, and I agree. I mean, a lot of them are just about likes and fans and that. How are you extracting data from the different social hubs about consumers that allow CPG marketers to market to them based more on what they're finding out, what's basically spitting out from your formulas?
Yeah, well the key thing about this is my background in CPG and the intimate knowledge of there's 3 distinct departments, and they tip in CPG companies, and they all have 3 distinct budgets, or I should say, they're allocated budgets, but then they can choose how they want to use that. That's the marketing department, the trade marketing department, and the sales management department. I know what these departments use, how they typically use syndicated data such as Nielsen and Symphony IRI, and some people use dunnhumby information. So the data that I'm pulling, the way that we're applying filters on it, is to specifically address what CPG calls DSMPs, distribution, shelving, merchandising, and pricing, or MAPs, merchandising, blah, 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 blah. So right now, the third-party data sources that I use, for example, I'll give you one, is called Track, and then UR. There's also something called NIP, GNIP, also another one called InfoChimps. So right now, I don't need to build the scraping technology. What I need is some eggheads, data scientists, data engineers, statisticians that can allow me to enhance my algorithms to be able to parlay that into some of the advanced social analytics.
So how do you protect an algorithm as a piece of IP or something like that?
Certainly we'll have to apply for some patents. But here's the thing: is there's dozens of social media monitoring companies out there on the web right now. There is a bit of a first mover advantage here. There's two competitors, Nielsen McKinsey Insight, and there's something from dunnhumby. Now, so the first mover advantage is to infiltrate these CPG companies with my connections and attempt to patent applied social analytics. There's nothing out there right now in the marketplace that talks about applied social analytics in a direct form. So the actual IP, that's where I'll need some guidance on. However, it's going to come from human capital. And to put it in a perspective, there's 200 market research companies in the U.S. The top 50 of them bring in $8.5 billion. The next 51 through 200, their average revenue per year is $5 million, and they're growing at 3 to 5% a year. So there's room in the market.
So you said this year without funding you'll make money. What kind of clients do you have today?
Right now I just started calling on clients about a month ago. I've had conversations with Nestle. In fact, they asked for an RFP. Nestle is a multi-billion-dollar company. 2 days ago, I had a conversation with the director of marketing for Uncle Ben's, which is a $100 million brand owned by Mars. Next week, I have a conversation with the marketing department at Reckitt Benckiser on the Lysol brand. And in fact, I would have closed the gentleman 2 days ago, except he said, man, I wish you would have talked to me back in December when I was closing my budget. I certainly would have done the applied social analytics up to 10 brands, and that cost per year is $75,000. And unfortunately, I was a little chagrined. He said, wow, that's pretty good value.
Can you act on those customers today? Is your product up and running?
Yeah, it's called spending all night on the Excel spreadsheet. So yeah, that's why I don't. If you look at my website, all the graphics, everything, that's all been designed by myself. And I'm a marketing person. Don't really know WordPress or CSS, HTML, PHP, and all that stuff. So that's why I need some folks. Right now, I do have a small development team in Tunis, Tunisia, where I can get 3 for the price of 1 engineers, but I'd like to have them here locally.
So have you looked at, so you have, you've done some of this, your algorithms, right? And did someone take a look at it and they say, oh, this is statistically relevant? Or how do you gauge it's statistically relevant? Or what do you use as a metric there?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I'm not going to go toe-to-toe with a PhD such as yourself, but I can tell you that in the CPG industry, they're nowhere close to being PhD level or master's level stat people. But I do have on my advisory board a former vice president of Symphony IRI, who does have a PhD in stats that is helping me cross-check some of this.